I'm Aubrey Gowing, and today we're going to talk about sciatic nerve pain. The sciatic nerve is a fairly complicated nerve in that it has multiple nerve branches that come out of the spine and then unite to form one solid nerve trunk. So they exit in the lower back, in the lumbar spine, and also in the fused vertebrae of the sacrum. These travel out through the pelvis and then down through the back of the pelvis, underneath the buttock, through the area of the hamstrings, where the nerve then divides at the back of the knee into the tibial and common peroneal nerves. So there can be two primary causes of sciatic nerve pain. One is disc pathology. So where the nerves are exiting the spine, they can become trapped, and this is where the nerve is pressed against bone. This is usually down to disc pathology and can be diagnosed by using an MRI. The second is nerve entrapment. Sounds similar, but it means that the nerve is being compressed by soft tissue. So this is after the nerve has exited the spine, multiple nerve roots come together to form a thick cord called the sciatic nerve, which is a lot bigger than most nerves. It's about the size of your little finger. And this large branch of nerve tissue passes through the pelvis, and here tight muscles can compress it. So as we said, the sciatic nerve is quite a complicated nerve made up of multiple nerve branches coming out from the spine. So we have lumbar branches and we have sacral branches, and they unite to form this thick cord known as the sciatic nerve. So the sciatic nerve comes out at the front of the pelvis, comes through this opening in the back of the pelvis, and travels down the back of the thigh underneath the hamstrings. Now the hamstrings have been removed here so that we can see it, as have the muscles in the back of the pelvis. We've taken away the top layer, but we can see smaller muscles underneath. This one is generally quite well known, certainly by sciatic sufferers. It's called piriformis. And sometimes people suffer from what's called piriformis syndrome. So this muscle can put pressure on the sciatic nerve and cause sciatic type symptoms. Another muscle that we'll find in this area of the pelvis is a rotator. It turns the femur. It's called quadratus femoris. It turns the foot and the leg out. And when it does that, the space between the thigh bone and the pelvis reduces. And so the nerve can become compressed or, again, entrapped as it passes through this area, and as a result cause symptoms down the leg. As a general rule, the greater the pressure on the nerve, the further the symptoms travel. So let's take a look at some rehab that we can do, some exercises to help get the rotation out of this femur and take some pressure off the sciatic nerve if the pain is coming from these deep hip rotators.
In a treatment session, myofascial techniques can be used to derotate the femur and address fascial adhesion in the thigh and in the pelvis. Trigger points in piriformis can be released to reduce contracture and also nerve sensitivity. And then therapist-assisted stretches can help restore range of motion and normal muscle resting length. This can be repeated at different angles to address each of the deep hip rotators in the back of the hip, reducing pressure on the sciatic nerve. The client can then maintain the effects of treatment at home with targeted stretching exercises to remain pain-free.
Hope you enjoyed this short video and found it helpful. If there's subjects you'd like to see us cover in future videos, particular injuries or explanations of anatomical structures, please do get in touch with us either by leaving a note in the comments or you can email us at info@hcd.ie. You can also find information on our training seminars as well as our resource materials such as DVDs and books on our website. It's hcd.ie. If you'd like us to travel to you to provide a seminar in your area, please do get in touch. Thanks for watching.
Have you considered becoming a certified specialist? It's a tangible marker that your services meet nationally recognised standards of excellence, enabling the public to make informed choices when looking for a massage therapist or myotherapist. The opportunity to become a certified specialist is open to all therapists nationally. For more information, visit massagemyotherapy.com.au/certification.
Hey guys, welcome to Connect. It's great to have Mel Kettle with me today, sharing her story and journey. She's a communications strategist. Welcome, Mel.
Thanks so much. It's great to be here.
It's really cool to have you on board because there are Connect shows where I'm talking to, people directly within the industry, but it's always really great to have people from outside who have strengths and skills that you can sort of talk about, or they can talk about in relation to the membership. So it's great to have you on board. Let's let's get down to tin tacks and talk about your background. Where have you come from? I know that you're in Brisbane. You've got 5 kids. I've read your bio from your website. Is it 5?
I've got 5 chickens.
Oh, you got chickens?
No children.
I thought that was an affectionate term for your children. 5 chickens.
I know. I've got 5 chickens that lay eggs.
So what are the names of your chickens?
Pardon?
What are the names of your chickens?
Some of them don't have names yet. We've got Thelma and Louise, and we've got Moneypenny, and we've got 2 who are quite young, and we don't normally name them until they start laying eggs. And 2 youngsters only just started laying eggs in the last week or 2. And so we're still debating what we're going to call them. So if anyone has any ideas, please send them through.
There you go. Fantastic for isolation too, having your own fresh eggs. How cool is that? We are digressing a little bit. We should get going. So your background, Mel.
Yeah, so I've got about 25 years experience in working in communications. I started my communication experience early in my career running conferences mostly for associations, especially medical and legal and engineering associations. Did that for a few years. Then I ran all the events for Microsoft in Australia for a year, and that was ridiculously hectic. We did 300 events in a year with a team of 6. And then from then I almost had a nervous breakdown, so I moved to Queensland from Sydney. Did the marketing for the Brisbane Festival, which is a big performing arts festival here. Went from there to the Queensland government for 5 years, and then in 2006 decided that I'd had enough of working for other people and started my consultancy. And so since then I've worked with a lot of associations, with a lot of small businesses, with a lot of government agencies, universities, non-profits, some big corporates, a whole mix of different clients. And the work I do for them is to help them understand how to be more strategic in their communication and how to get their message across, how to understand who their audience is, who are their customers, who are their staff that they need to reach, and how do they say that? What do they say? How do they say it? When do they say it? And where do they say it?
Okay, fantastic. So what kind of made you go down that path? I know that off air we had a little chat about not-for-profits and member-based associations, and you were talking so passionately about that. Do you want to sort of expand on that, unpack that?
Yeah, so I've been involved with associations since I was in Brownies as a 10-year-old girl. And then I was in Girl Guides, and my parents were always active in local community associations. So my mother was in the Spinners and Weavers Guild. My father was involved in the sailing club and different sporting clubs. And so I've always been familiar with what associations and member-based organisations do from that perspective. And then when I started running conferences in the mid-90s, all of our clients were associations, and I just got I developed a really strong appreciation for the work associations do. And one of the things that I've loved throughout all of my career is working with organisations that have a purpose that's about more than just making money. So it's either to better the lives of their customers or their clients, it's to educate, or it's to support other people on their professional and personal in their professional and personal lives, like associations do. And so I've just gravitated to that sector. And when I reflect on all of the jobs and all of the clients I've had over the last 25 years in my career, the ones that have been the most traumatic and challenging and frankly horrible were those that were with organisations that were about the bottom line and the dollar.
Sure. There's a lot more to it, you realise. So, yeah, you sort of gravitated across. So your focus and your specialty is in communications. So do you want to sort of talk about communications and the importance of that to our membership, which is the people who will be watching this show?
Yeah, so I think that communication, Richard Branson says communication is the most important skill any leader can have. And you're all business owners, presumably a lot of you are business owners, and so you're the leaders of your own organisations. And if you can't communicate with clarity, with compassion, and consistently, then how on earth can you expect your clients, customers, patients to find you and to want to engage you for your services. I think that it's the first thing when it comes to communication is you need to be really clear on who is it that needs to know about you. Who do you want to know you? And then the more you know about who the people are that you want to know you, whether they're, prospective clients or whoever they might be, prospective employers, depending on where you're at in your organisation, then how do you find them? So once you know everything you can know about who your target market is, you need to think about what are their problems and what is it that I can help them solve. So I know whenever I go and have a massage, it's because some part of me hurts. I had a personal training session on Monday night and it's Wednesday now, and I am still so much pain. And I have another personal training session with her in 2 hours' time, and I am dreading it. And because of COVID, I couldn't get a massage in between. And so things that I look for are, what can I do to relieve the pain in this particular area? What are some exercises I can do? What is it that, how can I make things better for myself at the moment? And so they're some of the things that I've been Googling over the last couple of days. So people who, massage therapists and myotherapy therapists who answer those questions on social media, on the website, through your brochures, maybe through posters in your clinics, that's helping to solve my problem. And so when it's time for me to book one of the services that you provide, I'm going to remember who is it that's answered that question so that I can go to you, because by answering those questions that I've got, you're demonstrating your expertise in that space in a way that, while I don't know from personal experience, I'm assuming that you're an expert because of what you've written or the videos that you've created, that sort of thing. So, and then the third thing you need to think about in terms of communication is, again, it comes back to who's your target audience and who's your target market. Where do they go to get information? Where do they hang out? What do they do when they have a problem that needs to be solved?
Sure.
So do they go to Facebook? Do they go to LinkedIn? Do they go to Twitter? Do they go to YouTube? Do they Google search? So my recommendation for small businesses is that you have a website, and that on your website you create useful content that solves problems of the people you're trying to serve. And then make sure that you've got a little bit of understanding about search engine optimization, or SEO, so that you can use the relevant keywords and have your website configured in such a way so that when people type their problems into Google, they've got a better chance of going to your website rather than someone else's.
That's a really great tip. That's fantastic. Now, with these times, which are quite different, the question about how often should members review their communication channels and the way things are written into their business plan, what do you say to that? It should be something that you should have your finger on the pulse all the time, no doubt.
Absolutely, you should. So you should sit down at least once a year and have a think about who is my target market, where are they, what are their problems, what have I already solved by creating relevant content, what can I repurpose, and what is coming up. So, and then thinking about as well what's happening in the world right now. So coronavirus obviously has caused a huge number of challenges for a lot of organisations, but it's also creating opportunities to become more known. One of the things we know about the last couple of months is that more people have consumed more content online than ever before. So it's a great opportunity to review the content that you've got and to maybe experiment with some new ways of doing things. So if you've never created video, can you create some simple videos about, different stretches, different massage techniques, what you can do with your partner, and you can create it on your phone. You don't need fancy equipment or special equipment, just a phone, probably a good little microphone, like a little lapel microphone that you can clip on to your to your lapel, and a small tripod or something that will keep your phone steady so you don't get the camera shake that can make people feel a little bit car sick or motion sickness.
So what we're talking about there is really to stay sticky, to stay in touch with your clientele, and to allow them to feel like you're on top of everything and you're still on a journey with them during the hard times, so that when things, and they are starting to come back in most states, that you've still got that that connection with your clients.
And they don't even need to feel that you're on top of it, because seriously, who's on top of anything at the moment? It's just been a really hard time for heaps of people. So don't be afraid to show that vulnerability and to show empathy. A great example that I'm sharing with a few people at the moment is there's 2 suppliers I use. One of them sent me an email saying, we're putting our fees up. No acknowledgement of coronavirus, no acknowledgement that tons of people have lost their jobs, particularly that their users have potentially lost their jobs or lost income. And so that just left people cold.
So that's a poor piece. That's an example of poor communication, right?
Exactly. That showed no empathy. It didn't even acknowledge that we're going through coronavirus at the moment. And that email came out at the end of March, when it was all anybody was talking about. I got another email from another supplier in a similar sector who's opened the email saying, "Hi Mel, aren't these weird times right now? I don't know about you, but this is how I'm feeling. As you know, we've got these new products. We're going to start charging for them from this time, but we're keeping them available as a free trial until the end of July because we know that a lot of our clients are really struggling financially right now. And so I can guarantee that I will be a loyal fan of the second company for a very long time because they made me feel valued and they felt my pain, whereas the first one made me feel like a commodity and all they wanted from me was cash. Now, I'm not saying that you can't make a living, because we all need to, but you need to understand what's happening in the world right now. Another example, I schedule a lot of my social media content so that it can come out at different times of the day and just roll through, so I can, schedule it once a week and not have to worry about posting content for the rest of the week. With everything that's happening in the US at the moment, with all of the race riots, with all of the protesting, I turned off my social media feed last night because I thought it's really not appropriate right now for a lot of my content to go out.
Sure.
So I paused it for 36 hours and I've just started it up again because I think times are changing. But that's what I mean by you need to be really aware of what's happening in the world. And there's times when it's appropriate and there's times when just take a pause. And you'll know when those times are. Like anybody who has a sense of humanity
for sure,
know when those times are.
Yeah, great advice.
They don't happen often. I can think of maybe the last time I paused was during the Australian bushfires, when I paused all of my social media content for about 2 weeks because I thought nobody cares about my marketing programs right now. Too many people are concerned about not losing their homes in the fires. Yeah,
no, for sure. Look, before we came on air, you talked about how you've got a book on social media. Obviously, that's one of your fortes. You want to hold that up there? So it's going in and out of focus. Can you hold it back up again? Back towards you. We're losing you. There you go. That's a bit better. What's it called? The Social
Association.
There you go. The Social Association. What's that one about?
So it's called the Social Association, 5 Key Skills Not-for-Profits Need to Increase Member Engagement, Generate ROI and Create a Thriving Online Community, which is a really big way of telling you that social media is really important for all organisations. And the book goes through things like how do you create a social media strategy? How do you identify who your target market is? What do you say when you're creating content? what kinds of content should you be creating, where should you be sharing it, what do you need to measure in terms of metrics, and what are some time-saving tools and tips so that it's not sucking up every minute of your day.
And it's probably a really great time right now where people maybe are not as busy massaging to start reviewing their social media and other types of marketing around, so they can actually put some time spent into it and start planning for the future when we come out the other side. Yeah,
absolutely. I sat down about 6 weeks ago and mapped out my social media content for the rest of the year, and have started, and I've created content for the next couple of months because I had the time, because I wasn't traveling, I wasn't doing as much delivery as I normally do, because all of my work cancelled, because a key part of what I do is speaking at conferences and traveling to deliver, and because I can't travel, a lot of it's just like a lot of other people, it's gone.
Yeah. I can relate to that.
Yeah, but it's a really good opportunity to just assess what else you've got on, and maybe reevaluate as well. Do you want to continue doing what you're doing and how you're doing it? And if you do, that's awesome. And if you don't, that's awesome as well.
How do you go about putting it together? I'm a big fan of an A3 big piece of paper. I'm one of these people that just like to dump ideas down. But how do you go from okay, I'm going to review my social media plan for the next 8 months.
Yeah.
To get to that point, how do you go about doing that? What's the process for you?
So I use a whiteboard and Post-it notes, and I create an editorial plan for the year. So an editorial calendar, you could get an A4 piece of paper, or you could just, get a board or a part of a wall, divide it into 12. So one box for every month of the year. Put in each box what are the core things that are happening in that year. So it's things like Christmas holidays, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Easter, Valentine's Day. And then what are things that happen within your organisation throughout that year? When are you on holidays? When do you take, when are there special times for you? What are your business anniversaries? When are there particular times that are really busy, and when are there times that are really slow? If you specialise in sports massage, then what are the key sporting times of the year that you can tap into for creating content and reminding people? And then just map all of that out over 12 months, and then pick one or two of those themes for each month that you can create one or two pieces of content around. You don't need to create a lot. Even one a week is adequate, or more than adequate a lot of the time. And then when you've got that, maybe break it down into a little bit more detail around what are you going to do each week. And each week it might be things like you might create one week a month you might dedicate that, or one day a month you might say I'm going to create all the content today for the next month. If you do videos, you might want to block out a day to do all your videos for the next quarter in a day, because it's a bit of a palaver to get all your video gear set up, even if you are using a phone and only a phone. You get in the flow and you get in the rhythm. And so I'm a big believer in batch producing content wherever possible, particularly if it involves video where I've got to do, put some makeup on.
Yeah.
And into a different headspace.
Yeah.
I find that the first video is always a bit clunky, kind of like when you make pancakes. I was going
to use that analogy. Why is that? I've always wondered why that is. That first pancake, it's a shocker.
Yeah. It's because, for me, it's because I don't make them very often, and it's because you're working out, is the heat right? Is the temperature of the pan right? And then you get into your rhythm of flipping. And videos and content creation is the same. When I'm writing articles or blog posts, the first one always takes me ages. And then the second one and the third and the fourth and the fifth become so much quicker because my creative juices are flowing. And I'm in the flow of writing or recording or whatever it might be. So my recommendation is block out some time on a regular basis to create your content, and then you can schedule it in as well. So work out which social media platforms you want to use, or how else you're going to share your content, whether you do a regular newsletter, whether you're on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, whatever that might be, and plan it out. Because I'm assuming most of you are small business and
True.
in many cases sole operators, I'm assuming you're not going to have a lot of time. One of the things I mentioned is that you want your communication to be clear and you want it to be compassionate, but you also want to be consistent. So work out how frequently do you think you can post something or create something. And it might be once a week, or it might be once a month, or it might be once a quarter. And the frequency doesn't matter. It's the consistency that's important.
Yep, fantastic.
And I'm just thinking, what is that going to look like?
Now, on your website, I noticed there's a spot for people to sign up and subscribe to your weekly newsletter as opposed to your monthly newsletter.
Normally comes out on Thursdays, but this week I don't think it will be.
Yeah. And what's the web address?
So it's melkettle.com. It's very easy to remember. All of my social media handles are Mel Kettle. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, not really on Facebook for business purposes, and LinkedIn. So I'd love to connect. You're welcome to connect with me. If you send me a LinkedIn invitation, please tell me why and that you saw me on this video, because I get a lot of LinkedIn requests and sometimes they're not obvious as to why people might want to connect with me. And if it isn't obvious, then I usually just say no. All
right. Well, it's been great talking to you, Mel, and maybe one day in the future we might get you at one of our conferences to speak
I'd love to.
in more depth about communication and the importance of communication with clients, but also just generally in life. It's such a skill that we should all have, the ability to communicate genuinely and authentically to people. So I thank you for your words of wisdom today. And have you got anything else to finish off on at your point?
Just to let you know that I also have a podcast called This Connected Life, and a lot of what I've talked about today, I've talked about in the podcast. So if your preferred way of learning is through listening, then definitely check that out. And if your preferred way of learning is through reading, then read my blog on my website. There's some really good information there. And I've written a white paper recently on strategic communication for leaders. You can access that for free on my website as well.
All right,
but
brilliant.
Reach out if you have any questions, shoot me an email, or connect with me through social media. I'm always happy to answer simple questions.
Okay, lovely. Once again, Mel, it's been great talking to you. And for those at home who have been listening in, thanks very much for your time. And we'll see you next time on Connect. Thanks a lot. See you later.
Thank you. Bye.